Hello, I'm Michael Voris.
And I'm Father Pablo, Catholic missionary priest. We really want you to watch every week the one true faith. Had you left that one true faith, please come home. We're waiting for you because we love you.
And welcome to the One True Faith, what we call the most disturbing hour on television because we talk about the most serious issue there is, our eternal destinies, where we're going to spend eternity. What we do in this life is what determines our eternal lives. That's a fact. There's no getting away from that. If things were just as simple in this life as just strolling through a shopping mall and taking a look at picking this or picking that, life would be pretty easy, but it's not that easy, as a matter of fact. It isn't that easy because what we choose in this life impacts not only us, but those around us. This is kind of common sense stuff, but I was talking to a group of people a short while ago, and said, sometimes you have to pay attention to the most obvious stuff because the most obvious stuff gets overlooked. And it's from that pile of most obviousness that we get all of our thoughts and beliefs and everything from. So every now and then it's good to go back to the very basic common sense stuff. Just touch base with it and get back to our lives. What we do impacts other people, and what other people do impacts us. There's that famous line, no man is an island. Well, of course, that is meant in the context of something emotional, but we're talking here about spiritual. No man is an island. Whatever we do, whatever we say, whatever is said or done to us impacts us and those around us spiritually. We're all connected. It's the human family. Now, since these are questionable economic times, that's putting it politely, the show's recorded in Michigan, so they are there's not much of a question here. It's a pretty definite answer. Let's take a look at our spirituality from an economic perspective. Let's compare our spirituality to economic systems. And there are lots of similarities. We're going to start with the financial economy. What is an economy? What do you mean by that? You hear that all the time. Oh, the economy this, the economy that. And people are like, what does that mean? What is the economy? Well, it's so tough to sort of nail down that even economists don't really know what it means. They shift this, they shift that. If they're trying to fix it, they do different things. They can't figure out exactly what to do. If it was that easy to figure out, everybody would do it, right? So they're not doing it. So even agreeing upon a definition is a hard thing for economists to get to. But in short, it's the sum total of all of the activity of commerce, everything. All the money deals that go on, all the financial deals that go on back and forth, all of these things are wedded together in the economy. When you get a job, that doesn't impact just you. That impacts people now that you're able to afford and feed your family. You go buy a house, you buy a car. Taxes are taken out. Those taxes are taken out supposedly for the common good. I'm not quite sure about that anymore, but anyway, the taxes come out for the common good. They go to help this. They make this project. They build the roads. They pay the police who are going to protect you. Those police get paid. They can go buy food and housing for their families. So it's this big, huge web of activity. It's a big humming, constantly going sort of thing. When you buy a house or a car, the seller is able to provide a living for his or her family, which means he can buy goods, and the people he's buying the goods from, those people can now earn a living. And see, so when the economy's either up or down, and if it's down, everybody's hurting, and if it's up, everybody's doing well, or at least better than they would be if it was down. The interactions between producers and consumers is too vast to really comprehend. That's why economists, like we said, have such a difficult time trying to figure any of this stuff out. And they say, well, raise the taxes 0.5%, and then that'll happen over here. But when that happens, it's just this huge pile of dominoes, and nobody really quite gets it. Nobody quite grasps it. We don't know how to fix the economy. There's just too many interconnecting, moving parts for anyone to fully grasp. It gets really complicated when you start allowing for the fact that everyone in the economy is both a producer and a consumer. You make things, you go to work, you're making something for somebody, but you're also buying stuff from somebody else. So we're everything. We're everything. We each operate on both ends of the law of supply and demand. You demand something, you go to the store, you get it, but also, somebody's demanding something from you. Understanding this interconnectedness is very, very, very helpful. Sometimes we're producing, sometimes we're consuming. This whole anthill, this whole beehive of activity added together produces what we call the gross domestic product, the GDP. It's the sum total of all commercial commerce activity. All right, that's economics. I've just exhausted everything I know about economics now, except I'm poor. I got that one down really well. Now, let's use this economic model and let's apply the principles of economics, this interconnectedness and how things are affected by each other. Let's understand this from a spiritual standpoint, the spiritual interconnectedness we all have. We're going to be using some financial terms as analogies to the spiritual world. And before we go on, though, I've got to say that as brilliant as this may seem, it's not my idea. If you go through Scripture, I was actually preparing for this show, and I was struck by the number of instances in sacred Scripture where money and wealth is used as analogies, largely by Jesus, but not particularly by Jesus, to help us comprehend particular spiritual truths. Jesus says, for example, remember where your treasure is, there lies your heart. People get the money thing. There is even more of a connection between economics and spiritual analogies, for example. There was also a direct contrast that Jesus made between spiritual wealth and worldly wealth. He gives us the parable about Lazarus and the rich man. He gives us the kind of blunt statement, you cannot serve two masters, both God and money. St. Paul tells us in his letter to Timothy, the love of money is the root of all evil. So money and all of the things connected around it can serve as sort of a valuable tool for helping us increase and deepen our spirituality and our own reflection and help us comprehend some of the eternal truths that we that we come into contact with in our daily lives. So if we view our lives, our faith lives, as participating in this great, complex, spiritual economy, we can learn many things. First off, just like with a money economy, the financial economy, there are certain laws and rules which you cannot break or try to change without making the situation worse. We know generally speaking, if you raise taxes, the economy has a problem. Well, that's kind of a law of economics. If you jack up taxes too much, that has a ripple effect throughout the economy. These economic laws have been proven over vast periods of time, from economy to economy, from culture to culture, from nation to nation. This is true with spiritual economy as well. Things can be running along quite smoothly in our spiritual lives, but when a bad product is produced and we buy it, things head south pretty darn fast. And we're not the only person buying the goods. In spiritual terms, the reality is that there are really two sort of different economies running side by side with each other. There is a healthy economy of spirituality, and there is an economy of evil. You might think of it in terms of sort of a black market. So you've got this good economy going over here, and you're certainly free to participate in it. And you've got this kind of black market thing over here where you can get goods really quick, easy, maybe not so cheap, but you can get them right away and you don't have to wait for them. It's kind of the appeal of the black market. They're each enormously busy, each of these economies. They've got millions and millions of people in each economy. They have untold amounts of activity and production going on, and the GDP of the spiritual economy and the GDP of the economy of evil are enormous. They're enormous. The economy of the economy of spirituality, the good economy, that GDP is the great divine providence, and you can participate in that. The economy of evil has its own GDP, and that is gross diabolical presence. And that's the sum total of what happens when we participate in either one of these economies. One of these GDPs is advanced, the divine providence or the diabolical presence. And let's get into this. They both operate with a certain type of currency. We know from finances you deal with change and cash and checks and, in the spiritual economy, the gold standard applies. By the gold standard is sort of that by which everything else is measured. It's an objective standard in the spiritual realm, but in the evil economy, everything's kind of done with electronic transactions. You just do something real fast. You don't have to have the gold now. You just push a couple buttons, money goes zip, zing, boom, zang here. And the problem with it is that it actually doesn't seem like real money after a while. When somebody's taken money in and out of your account, you've approved it, but when there's money shifting here and shifting there, and you just get a piece of paper at the end of the month, you never have the cash. You never have the gold in your hands. You don't have the coins. Way back, people used to take the money from the paycheck, cash the paycheck, throw it on the bed, dive into it, feel the cash, count it out. My mom was of Irish descent and raised in England, and she would never deal with credit. She wanted the cold, hard cash. Came home, the paycheck, and she'd count that money out, and here's the money for groceries, here's the money for this, and here's the money for that. You know what? And it gave you a sense of this is real. And when this goes away, well, then you get hungry until the next check comes in or whatever happens. I used to have to take my high school tuition, Catholic high school tuition, in a little envelope every month, and my mom would sit there, I've never forgotten it, she'd say, okay, we're going to show you, and she'd pull money out of this, that, or the others. We didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up. And don't have money now either. She'd pull money out and she'd stick it in like, here's 4 20s and here's a 10 and a 5 and a bunch of change, and I'd take it into the treasurer of the school every month. And I really got a sense of, hey, this is money. And if you don't have this, then this doesn't happen. So there's a sense of reality that sets in about money, cold hard cash. Everybody loves cold hard cash. But when you're sitting here dealing with this, going up to a machine, pushing a bunch of buttons, money in, money out. You never actually people don't even carry cash with them anymore. They don't have a sense of what it is, like this reality. You're kind of in this like virtual reality of an economy. It's not really quite real. It's there, but you just move here, you move there, go on your computer, log on, shift this, shift that. It's a bunch of numbers flying around. Doesn't have that sense of reality to it. Why? Because when you deal in the reality of actual gold, always know exactly where you stand. Always. But when you're doing these zings and bleeps and, you don't even know what's going on anymore. You lose track of it. What do you mean I'm overdrawn? Overdrawn? How'd that happen? Because you pushed a bing button and it zipped it there, and next thing, bling, and you're like, wow, it happened. It's not real. It's just electronic transfers. You can easily lose sight of what's real until the collection agency comes. Because there's always you may lose sight of it being real, but there's always somebody else sitting there who's keeping very tight controls on what's going on. We can also talk about, in each of these economies, savings accounts. Now, Americans aren't big for saving, but we all know what a savings account is. Each one of these economies has a savings account in it. In the spiritual economy, we make, to borrow a phrase, a deposit of faith. Isn't that clever? We make a deposit of faith, and a little slow tonight, folks. Come on. And what do we receive? We receive interest. How? In grace. When you deposit faith, when you live by faith in God, God rewards that faith. He promised He would. Didn't He not walk up to countless people in the Gospels and say to them, do you believe I can cure you? Do you believe I can help you? And they'd say yes. And what did He do? He afforded them the grace that had a physical, but more importantly, a spiritual effect, and they were cured. So faith bears interest. It's grace. And a lot of people take that grace and put it right back into the account, and they get more grace the next time. This isn't a very ecumenical show. Jesus alluded to this in the parable of the king who gave 3 different men 3 different sums of money. And what did He tell them to do? He told them to go make more with it. He didn't say, here, money's evil. He said, here, go make more with it. So, what does He do? The different men come back with different amounts. The one guy, with his, not a very good story, comes back with nothing. He's given something. He comes back with nothing more than what he was given. And what happens to him? get out. Get out into the darkness, bind him up where he'll be wailing and gnashing his teeth. He didn't produce. He didn't produce. See, that's a rule of the sacred economy, of the divine economy, that when you're given something, you have to be a wise investor. There is in the economy of evil, we take our deposits. We save up our deposits of sin, we deposit them, and we earn interest in terms of vices and compulsions. We keep making deposits into a sinful account. We get interest, but it's not a good interest. It eventually becomes a negative interest. It's kind of like a negatively amortizing mortgage. You keep paying, and somehow the more you pay, the more you owe. It's kind of a goofy thing that it seems to be like sort of counterintuitive, but it's true. The more you pay, the more you owe, and you never get out of debt. So for a while, evil savings accounts look impressive. They look impressive. You open up your statement, so to speak, in the mail, and you're like, wow, look at everything I've got. This is amazing. I've got a car, 6 homes, 3 affairs going on at the same time. Everybody thinks I'm awesome and cool. Look at what I've got in my account. Yeah, it's enticing, as a matter of fact. For a time, you can even borrow against it. The banker at the evil bank gives you what looks like very favorable terms. He's been doing this for a long time, very favorable terms. All you have to do is take one little bite, and you'll be like a god. Now, who's going to pass up that deal? It's too good to be true. Free money. That's what it's all about, free money. Don't worry about paying me back now. Do that later. Go spend. Have fun. So we do, don't we? That's exactly what we do. We do business in the economy of evil. We do it every day. We conduct all sorts of transactions, and doing transactions automatically involves other people. You can't transact a transaction with yourself. Trans means across. You're doing something with somebody else. We do a lot of business with friends and neighbors, all the while using the evil banker's money. And he's more than happy to have us involve others in our spiritual finances. And what happens at the end of that? In financial terms, we become invested, right? We become invested. The more you do business, the more you are inclined to do business in that manner. We become enmeshed and caught up in this. And so the great engine of the economy of evil continues to be fueled by humans who believe a big lie. And what is the big lie? That the bill never comes due. That's a big lie. That spiritual bankruptcy will never come my way. I'll always find a way to shuck and jive around it. I'll move the money from here to there. But it's not your money. That's the problem. And just like with credit cards, the deeper you go into debt, the more those offers keep showing up in the mail. Isn't that mysterious? Hey, you're already $74,000 in debt. We want to extend another $15,000 of credit to you that you can't pay. Sign up, send it in, and you get it. The more you drink, the more people offer you drinks. Ever notice that? He's having a good time, give him another drink. The more illicit sex you engage in, the more it seems to present itself to you. The more you concentrate on earthly wealth, beyond wealth that is necessary, the more opportunities seem to present themselves to you to grow even richer. There's this kind of, you're standing there and you're kind of doing something, and behind you there's this great big kind of wall forming, like a big spider web that's slowly coming around you. You don't see it because you're so busy standing here at your ATM machine, shifting money around. You want a receipt? That's all right. Meanwhile, what's going on behind you? What's forming around you? This economy of evil churns out loads of products, each one more bright and shiny than the one before it. Every good that comes off the assembly line. Have you ever noticed this? No matter how evil presents itself, this one is new and improved. It's a new and improved offer. It's a special offer just for you. And all you have to do is act right now. Don't let this special one-time offer pass you by. Call now. And believe me, operators are always standing by. So far, we've only really talked about this in terms of personal terms. But there's no such thing as an economy of just one person. When we come back, how all of those individual accounts at Last National Bank can add up and break the bank. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to One True Faith. We're talking about the economy of evil and how we participate in this, first individually, but more to the point, how it affects everybody and causes a worldwide corruption in humanity. We've all heard the expression, don't throw good money after bad. But in spiritual terms, sometimes it's not very clear exactly which money is good money. If we're going to do something, we get sort of stuck in this idea that I'm able to figure this out. I can kind of do this, one more little investment and I'll get out of debt on my own. All I have to do is do this or do that. And lots of people run into lots of problems when they start assuming that they can figure out they're the ones who got themselves into the mess to begin with. What on earth makes them think they can get themselves out of it? We keep conducting business in the economy of evil, thinking everything will turn out all right. So that's a little lie we keep telling ourselves. The bill's never going to come due. And that's where we make our fatal mistake. When we sin, we always involve other people. See, this is the problem. You can't get out of your own debt because your debt has caused problems to other people as well who are dragging you down. You can't get out of your own debt. You can't. You're always relying on somebody else. Even in real life, we know that. Get out of debt and all of a sudden you get, I've got this budget plan all set up and all of a sudden you get a pink slip. Or you get cut by 10%. Or seasonally laid off. Or they've shut the factory for 6 weeks. Whoops, what happened? See, you're always dependent on somebody else. In some form or another, in the money world and in the spiritual world, you're always dependent on somebody else. They're either the object of sin, these other people, object of our sin, or they're affected by our sin, or oftentimes they're the ones tempting us to sin. All these transactions going back and forth, and there can be 100 of them in an hour. They zing back and forth electronically. The economy of evil works best electronically. Zing, boom, fast. Don't think about it. Just move money from here to there. This sin from here to there, fast, real quick. Oscar Wilde once famously said, I can resist anything but temptation. Brilliant man. So, what happens when we engage in the sordid business of sin with other people? Well, they go out and get others involved. So you have to think in grand economic terms, the whole economy. When you sin, someone else gets affected, and that person goes out and affects somebody else. They deal something. You ever seen that those websites where they track a dollar bill? They'll write down the serial number of the dollar bill, and then they'll track it. It'll say, go on, whatever website and follow this dollar bill all around the world. And it travels all over the place. You see all the different people's hands that went through it. 7-Eleven in wherever, Detroit, and then the next thing somebody got change and off they went and they got it in Philadelphia and they passed it off to somebody who paid for a train fare to go to New York. And this one little thing travels all over the world. Now multiply that by millions. Let's think about it in spiritual terms. The adulterous husband and father draws a great web around his family. He traps them in his sin. They're not asking for anything. He commits a sin, and they're involved in it. Discord, resentment, anger, all of this enters the household. The wife is wounded, as she should be. The children grow resentful that their mother has been hurt and that their childhoods have been shattered, as they should. But it doesn't stop there. Doesn't stop inside those walls. They receive dividends from an investment that they never even made. But they quickly reinvest that newfound capital and start to earn their own interest. They lose trust. They grow in resentment. They spread the wealth around among their own friends. One adulterous husband is just one example. That's just one example of the product that the great evil economy can produce. Multiply that now by millions of unfaithful spouses. Mix in other sins derived from the lust account. premarital sex, cohabitation, homosexuality, fornication. Multiply all of that times all of the people and see how these transactions start to create and build an economy of evil that we all participate in. See how millions and hundreds of millions get caught up in this evil economy, whether they want to be or not. Lots of people started off very innocent, and all of a sudden, one little thing looked enticing to them, and they were affected by sin, and they stepped in. They walked through the doors of the bank. We've all done it. If you haven't done it, you're not human, unless you're Jesus or the Blessed Mother. Everyone else has an account in this bank. And since everything that happens in the culture happens first in the human heart, the actual economy, the dollars and cents, going to work, driving, becomes affected. I saw a wonderful headline, finally, in the mass media not so long ago, that said, America's economic mess is really a moral crisis. Finally. Instead of sitting there with Senate hearings and interviewing this banker who, by the way, made $50 billion and ran off and did something, that's not how you fix this. The problem with everything in humanity is how closely we are related to evil. As we pull away from it, things improve. As we draw closer to it, things go down. That's just the simple truth. That's why God doesn't want us participating in evil, because it's ultimately bad for us here and in eternity. It's that simple. Sometimes you hear this stuff and you think, well, that's just kind of obvious. Obvious things sometimes need to be revisited. At the core of the economy of evil is the age-old appeal to the self. Of course it is. That's why it always looks so good, right? That's why advertisements work. Why do you think that, has anybody not heard of McDonald's? Has anybody not heard of Burger King? Of course you have. Why? Because they advertise. Well, why do they advertise? To keep themselves forefront in your brain. And look at what happens in this advertising. It's always an appeal to you. I'm loving it, says McDonald's. I'm loving it. Maybe you don't like Big Macs, but you're loving them. These things ring in our ears. How many people, 20 years ago maybe it was, can still sing the Big Mac song? To all beef, patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles. Everybody knows that song because they drilled it into your head. If something that obvious can be drilled into your head and that silly, what do you think these sort of subliminal things are that are going into your heads and your minds, all of us? They stir our hearts, they stir our minds, and to the greater depths of self-absorption. And the marketers know sin. They know exactly which button to push in us, and it's pride. Wear this cologne, and women will drop at your feet. Well, maybe you didn't pay enough for it. Drive this car, and the world will worship you. Look at the sleek design. Look at the beautiful handling. You can't live without this. Listen carefully to the slogans. I'm going to do this because I'm worth it. Very few sit in their armchair at home flipping through the remote and hear, because I'm worth it, and think to themselves, no, I'm not. We all think, yeah, that's right. I am worth it. I've had a tough day. My boss was a real jerk to me. My kids are driving me. I'm worth it. Calgon, take me away. We're able to traffic in the currency of evil in this economy because we are born with some loose change from it in our pocket. We come into the economy already with some of those coins in our pocket. The church calls it concupiscence, the effect of original sin, that these things look good to us, and it doesn't take us very long. Look at a little 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. It doesn't take very long before they discover that change in their pocket and realize if they lie to mommy about knocking over the vase and breaking it, they won't get in trouble. Oh, see, it starts so early. Just a little loose change. Take that money, deposit it in the bank account, and next thing you know, you got a little more interest. And now you can use that interest to get something else. See, pride is the key. Pride makes us be like the great, powerful train engine on the railroad tracks. After a while, it admires itself so much. It says, I'm the most powerful engine there is. Look at me. Shows off its wheels, puffs up its steam, does all this wonderful, powerful train. And then it looks around and goes, I don't need these tracks. I'm the most powerful train in the world. I don't need these tracks. So it jumps the tracks because it doesn't need them anymore. And soon after that, it isn't even a train anymore. Now it's just a smoldering heap. This is finally why we get all tangled up, because of pride. Pride is what leads us into and keeps us in this evil economy. And one day, as it always happens, the bill comes due, as it has now for the world's great economies, including ours, but not just ours. The world is in economic turmoil because the world has trafficked in the economy of evil and has dealt this currency for too long. Because of pride, we've grown greedy and expect something for nothing, don't we? This whole stimulus package stuff. This might be dated for whenever somebody might see this, but it's 2009 right now, and the Congress just passed the stimulus package of, I even lost count, 274 gazillion, trillion, billion dollars, whatever it was, whatever it is. Money for nothing. It's all free. Do whatever you want. Don't have to pay. Let 3 generations from now pay. Let 7 generations after them pay. Money for nothing. Free. Give me what I want now. These spiritual points affect the world economy now. Of course they do. Because people who are spiritual beings are the ones who go and slap down money for things. We are the ones who take money and put it into pornographic sites on the internet. And those people take that money, accumulate it, and go spread more evil. And on, and the web never stops. It never stops. It just grows and grows and grows. The economy of evil never seems to get into a recession, if you've noticed. Never seems to have a recession. We always expect someone else to foot the bill for us. We have forgotten the old maxim that if you can't pay, you don't play. Hundreds of millions have had sex expecting no consequences whatsoever. Emotional lives have been destroyed as a result. In many cases, physical lives have been destroyed. Hundreds of millions have been aborted all over the world, depriving the natural economy, the money economy, of what it needs, its fuel, to grow, a population. Hundreds of millions of people are missing in the economy. Why? Because there aren't enough people around. Because we've killed them all, or we've birth controlled them before they even came into existence. Businesses have gone belly up because many people who led them or worked for them had absolutely no concern about anything else except feathering their own nest. We talk about the common good of society. Heck, even within a company, there's no common good sense. It's my job, my schedule, my time, my this, my that, my paycheck. I get the raise, he doesn't, da-da-da-da-da. There's no sense of a common good. Because the ultimate thing about the economy of evil is that it all eventually breaks down into your own individual economy. This tidal wave across the world's economies is what happens when personal indebtedness to the economy of evil becomes too great to pay back. And it's always, always too great to pay back. The way out, and there is one way out, there's only one way out, and that is to declare spiritual bankruptcy and reduce ourselves to poverty. Spiritual poverty. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. That's the only way out of this. Think of the divine economy as a sort of a great credit counselor. It's bankruptcy court. It's where you go and you turn everything over to the judge. Everything. And that judge, that credit counselor, decides how you must now live because you have given up that freedom to be able to determine for yourself. I can't declare bankruptcy. That's insane. I'm not declaring bankruptcy. Anything other than bankruptcy. Why not? Why not just throw in the towel and give up? Admit you spent way over your ability. You did it for stupid reasons. In the spiritual sense, you did it for sinful reasons. Throw in the towel, say, you know what, I give up. Because the debt we owe to Satan over at Last National Bank is already too great to ever work off. The bank owns our soul. There's only one escape. Give up everything, most especially pride, and say, I'm heading down to the eternal bankruptcy court and I'm going to see the judge. I screwed up royal. I got to do what I got to do. You know, I understand he's actually worked out some good deals for other people. I hear that. He pays the debt for you to Last National Bank. You walk away cleared. He hands in redemption coupons for you, and the debt is wiped out. He even tells you a story, if you listen closely enough, about him doing this. It's in Matthew's Gospel. He talks about a king who decided to settle accounts. And one of his servants comes in and stands before him and says, my account is too great. And he throws himself on the ground and pleads for mercy. And the king takes mercy on him and cancels all of his debt. He doesn't reduce it. He doesn't give you a re-amortization package. He just cancels it. Truth of the matter is this. Humans will do business in one economy or the other. There's no middle ground. You're in this economy or you're in that economy. And the reason that's the way it is because that's how it has to be. Now, we can either do business with the evil economy, or we can do business in the economy of the divine. There is no difference in how we pick and choose. We will choose this way and it's the right way, or we will choose this way and it's the wrong way. At the end of the day, here comes the collection agency. You can have a collection agency show up and say, I'm taking everything you have and I'm locking you away forever until you're able to pay. Or you can go to the other collection agency and who says to you, I'll pay everything for you. All you have to do is just admit that you've messed up and you're now willing to work out and live this plan, this spiritual budget. And at the end of the road, everything will be fine. It's our choice. You know what? If you go to this one over here, I hear it's really good. It's a good plan. And you get to be best friends with the credit counselor, with the chief economist. We'll be back with questions right after this. Well, and welcome back to The One True Faith. We're talking about the economy of evil in a spiritual sense, and this is a part of the show where we take questions and answers. So, St. Paul, what's your question?
Michael, we've seen in the past months how the policies of corrupt and greedy politicians mixed with the schemes of greedy and otherwise maybe corrupt financiers have ruined our economy. Mm-hmm. What do you think that faithful Catholics could do to disrupt this economy of evil that you've been talking about?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to do, well, first of all, in reference to the monetary economy, yes, there's a lot of people who did a lot of bad things, but you don't want to pin this on the evil cabal of a few hundred zillionaires. This economy has taken the turn it's taken because this is one huge collective effort. 5, 6, 7, 10 crooks don't ruin an economy of 300 million people. 300 million people ruin an economy of 300 million people. These guys are great showpieces of the extremity of it, but the extremes of it. But this is a collective effort. It's a collective effort. But to the point we were talking about during the show itself, there's a very old saying that goes back, and it's very true. Before kingdoms change, men must change. You're not going to have anything, any kind of kingdom, financial kingdom, a political kingdom. None of that is able to change until individuals change. Now, you changing or me changing doesn't guarantee that the change will happen. But if we don't, it does guarantee that the change won't. So we have to convert. I mean, this is what Jesus said. What did God the Father, tell Israel in the Old Testament? If you stay with me, follow my laws, follow the statutes and everything, I will protect you from all of your enemies. And he did. And this isn't like an economic, prosperity gospel thing. This is the good that I want for you in this life, and there will be pain mixed in with it, but the good you will have in this life. But if you disobey my laws, disobey my decrees, don't convert in your heart, the pain that you already have as being part of fallen human nature will increase manifold. And we break the cycle of evil by first breaking it in ourselves. And that's very, very hard to do. It's very hard to do. We're inclined to evil. We see the good and we're inclined to that, but evil has a very powerful draw on us. That's why these commercials work.
Okay. Thank you much.
Thank you. Hi, what's your name? Where are you from?
Sean House from Ferndale, Michigan.
How you doing, Sean?
Doing great, thank you. And I just wanted to say thank you to you for all the work you do to spread the word of God. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
But I wanted to ask if there was any tips that you could give a potential depositor in the last national bank before Satan decides to foreclose.
Close your account. Close your account, tear up the deed, and run like hell. How do you know what you got to do? You got to have, look, both of us, in the analogy of this, both of us have many of us have accounts in both. But the idea is to keep taking out of this one and putting into that one. This bank's going to fail. It's going to fail. You're going to lock the doors one day and you won't be able to get anything, and you're going to pay for it with your eternal life. This bank over here, you keep making the deposits. This is that nice, slow, steady stock that no matter what happens, it just keeps getting better little by little. But it's a safe haven. This is the safe place to put your investment. But this requires a good hard look in the mirror. Everybody has to say, wow, what I'm doing is really horrible. This is wrong. Look at the horrible evil and stuff I've caused. I had to do this. I had a horrible, miserable, evil life beforehand. And it took my brother dying and my mom dying 10 months later for me to stand and look in the mirror and go, oh, wow, I'm a disaster. I'm a disaster. I was one of the major shareholders in Last National Bank. And I still have an account there, but it's like it's like a Christmas Club account, I hope. And I've opened up an account over here, well, maybe not a Christmas Club account, but a few savings accounts here and there. Hopefully, with God's help, all I'm doing is throwing loose change in that one, and I do business over there still. But I like to think that I do the majority of my banking here. And it really takes a good solid look, what's wrong with me? And the answer to what's wrong with me is I'm a fallen human being and I need God. And if I don't have God, I will end in ruin. End of story. It's that simple. And when you admit that to yourself, now you have the necessary paperwork to go up and open up an account at Divine Providence Savings and Loan. I don't know. These analogies are getting kind of funny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, what's your name? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm Bob Nevin from Berkeley, Michigan.
How you doing, Bob?
When I pray for divine help on my financial ruin, and I say continuous rosaries daily, and I'm getting nowhere, am I doing something wrong?
No, you're getting enormous interest on your account. It's just the statements aren't showing up on a regular basis.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe there's a problem with the mail. No, there is no such thing as... See, prayer is something that we do in our time. Prayer, as how God addresses it, is what he does in his time. God never, ever, ever, ever... I was talking about this with my dad the other night. God never disses his friends. Never. Sometimes he makes you want to realize how dependent on him you are. And so he keeps drawing you out. And I would imagine the 3 hours that our Blessed Mother stood at the foot of the cross of Jesus, I would imagine that 3 hours seemed like 3 eternities to her. And, you've got to think maybe somewhere in her heart she was praying, all these things. And you keep praying. But, she's the Queen of Heaven now. And whatever happens here, when I was in seminary in New York, Monsignor William Smith, his nickname was Smitty. God rest his soul, he just died a couple of weeks ago. He had a wonderful line I've never forgotten, and it's so practical, and it makes perfect sense. He said, whatever ends can be lived through. And that's true. No matter how bleak something seems down here, this isn't even a drop in the bucket. This is a passing thought compared to eternity. There's no such thing as I'm praying, and nothing's happening. There is such a thing as I'm praying, and I wish something would happen, but there's never a I'm praying, and nothing's happening. That situation cannot exist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
And what's your name?
I'm John Snyder. I'm from Madison Heights.
How you doing, John?
Pretty good, and yourself?
Good. Thank you for asking.
Anyway, how does confession or forgiveness fall into this economy?
Going to confession is taking the interest from the account.
Okay. Thank you. I guess that's a simple answer.
No, this is the payback. Here come the dividends. You know, you've made an investment in humility. You've gotten rid of pride. You've shut the pride account, or at least you've ignored it, and you've gone to humility. That's what you take to this bank. You invest humility, and what do you get back? You get forgiveness. You get forgiveness of sins. You get to start all over again, and you keep getting that debt canceled. Every single time you go, and this guy taps you on the shoulder and goes, "Hey, you owe me $4 billion." And you go, "Oh yeah, here, let me hand it to him." All right, there, you're paid. Go away. And forgiveness is, assured forgiveness, promised, guaranteed forgiveness from the mouth of Almighty God. There's no better interest in this life than that, other than receiving Jesus, personally. But that's
Right.
a separate thing. But from the question of forgiveness,
Right.
it's the most beautiful thing you can do. And now you get to take your pure self and go participate in the divine economy. In the same way in the evil economy, you influence people. You know what? Now you're able to go influence people and spread this economy. That's what these two economies are warring. One of them collapses in the end. Just doesn't look like it right now. But make sure you got your money in this bank.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, John. How you doing? What's your name?
Kevin from Harrison Township.
Hi, Kevin. What's your question?
I'm doing fine. Question is, are we held accountable for the people we lead into bankruptcy with us?
Oh, ooh, yeah, because sometimes bankruptcy isn't just a personal thing, is it? Mm-hmm. Whatsoever you did to the least of my brothers, you did this unto me. Yeah, Archbishop Fulton Sheen used to say, the quickest way to get to heaven is take someone's hand and lead them there. I've got to imagine that the opposite of that is true too. Quickest way to get to hell is to help lead people there. Yeah, we're in this together. We are saved individually, but we're saved as a race by one man. We are connected to each other. Now we aren't saved collectively, but we are saved individually together. So there is a connectedness between us all, and to the extent that we influence somebody for the good or for the bad, we absolutely have to make account for that, and we will be made to make account of that. So Jesus doesn't say go out and preach and tell them to follow my commandments for nothing. That's our duty. If somebody doesn't respond to it, you've done your duty. You've done what your day's work is supposed to be.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to the One True Faith. The bottom line of what we're talking about here is you must choose the good and avoid evil. It's that simple. We can use different analogies, but following this analogy through to its end, there was one deposit made into the economy of evil that changed everything. This original deposit that set the wheels in motion was 30 pieces of silver. That built the divine economy. It allowed us to begin to participate in it. There's that wonderful prayer, the Exultet, that they say at the Easter Vigil. Oh happy fault of Adam, that merited us so great a Savior. So don't lose hope. No matter how in debt you are, don't lose hope. You can always just take your pen and sign on the dotted line, tell him to go where he needs to go, and come back and make a deposit over here where you need to make your deposit. Live over here. Live in the light. Be the salt of the earth. Be the light of the world. Fight the good fight, as St. Paul would tell us. No matter where you are, no matter how great the debt is over here, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is just go get a redemption coupon from the king over here, and the debt's paid back. Fight and stay true to your faith. God bless.
Oh,